You're listening to the Author Stories Podcast, bringing you the story behind the stories and the storytellers.
Margaret White,
Terry Brooks,
Sheena Kamal,
Matthew Quick,
JT Ellison,
Walt D. Williams,
Brad Ford,
Corey Dr. O,
Brandon Sanderson,
Robin Mott,
Ernest Klein, Jim Butcher,
Charlene Harris.
Visit hankgarner.com for archives of all the shows. Today's guest is... Well, thanks for joining me again for the Author Stories Podcast, where I bring you the story behind the stories and the storytellers. Today, I'm really excited to have Richard Osman on the show with me today. He has a phenomenal new book. It's called The Thursday Murder Club. And I'll tell you what, as someone who loves mysteries and sort of thriller-ish books, this is one of my favorite books of the year. And, coming into the fall season, I know you guys are really going to love it. Welcome to the show, Richard.
Thank you, Hank, and thank you for your lovely words as well. It's much appreciated.
You're very welcome. Richard, we begin each show with the same question, and that question is, what is your first memory of wanting to be a writer or storyteller?
That's such a good question because, I grew up with television and loving TV. I was a real TV kid and didn't really read when I was a child particularly. I'm very visually impaired, and so reading was always quite difficult for me. And it was probably not till, I read lots and lots of books, but it's probably not till something like Catcher in the Rye, which I know is incredibly cliched, but I read at sort of 16. And I thought, hold on a minute, I didn't know books could be like this. I didn't know books could I thought books were just stories. I didn't know they could tell me about, the human condition and make me change my mind about the world. And from then on, I just sort of thought, well, are there other books like this out there? And as any reader will know, there's plenty of other books out there like that. You're never going to run out of them. But, I really remember reading that book and absolutely having my mind completely changed, just thinking, oh, I see what books are now. This is not just something I have to study for my exams. This is not just something, this is like something that can make me cry and make me laugh and make me think about the world in a different way.
I love that. Your new book, The Thursday Murder Club, is a mystery in the true sense of the word, and it harkens back to my early experiences with Agatha Christie and different mystery series like that relatives would pass down to me and whatever. And I, from the opening sort of a scene of the book, I got this feeling like I was there. I was transported with the character. And, that's always the sign of a great novel that will take you into the world. Do you have an experience like that you remember where an author took you into the story like that? And was it Catcher in the Rye or was it a different story?
No, do you know what? I tell you a book that I avoided for years and years and years because I thought, oh my goodness, this sounds like a pretentious book, and this is not going to be for me in any way whatsoever. There's books that sit there for years. You just oh, that's not going to be for me. And it was 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And I thought, I'm not going to enjoy. What a book, and what magical realism, and 10 generations of the family, they've all got the same name. Oh, I don't think so. And I just sort of dived into that book and wanted to stay there forever. Just obviously somewhere I'd never been, I never will be, somewhere I can't even imagine, somewhere that's not even real, where I just felt I was there amongst the families and, on the bend in the river. And it's such a lovely thing when it happens that you can sort of bathe yourself in this thing. And then when it finishes, you're sort of bereft for a little bit.
Isn't it funny that books hold that sort of power in our society, where there have been plenty of books like that for me that I actually owned the book and I would display it prominently on a bookshelf or something and had never read the book, but it was just something that I felt like that I should own, Do
you have any examples of that, Hank?
Oh my goodness. something by Leo Tolstoy. I remember forever owning and never
Yeah.
cracking the cover,
I
and then when
mean,
I do, I was like, oh, this is why people enjoy it.
oh, so you did actually read it. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like Dickens or something. For years and years,
Right.
I knew. Yeah, I know Dickens. I've seen films of Dickens, and then you read something, you go, oh, that's why everyone loves him. He's like a really, really amazing writer, and it always comes as a surprise. I mean, honestly, I haven't read Tolstoy, right? And I'm like previous you. I'd be thinking, I'm not going to read Tolstoy. But listen, I mean, there's a reason why people do and why it's endured, right? I assume it's good.
Exactly. Richard, you have built quite a career in Britain as a television, a radio presenter, and different aspects of that. What got you into the entertainment business?
Well, I grew up watching TV. That was I was a TV kid. Sort of grew up in 70s and 80s and loved British television, and really mainstream British television as well. And when I left university over here, I just literally applied for a job from a newspaper. I didn't know anyone. I'm not from a posh family or a connected family. I had this one interview when I was 21, got a job in TV. And the second I walked through the door, I thought, well, I mean, this is the job for me. Because, when you spent your entire childhood doing something, without realizing it, you've become like such a massive expert. So I was in this industry where I sort of knew everything immediately because I'd watched every single show from the last 20 years, and it's the stuff that I loved. And so I've worked in telly ever since, really, as a producer, as a creator of formats, also as a writer. I've always written. I wrote for magazines as well when I was at university. But yeah, I literally got a job on a very, very, very bad, lowly paid television program. And my whole life I'm thinking, oh God, they're going to find me out one day. And I've never had a day out of work since. I've just sort of moved between companies and created shows, and it's been I've got so lucky just to walk into that one office on that one day, I have to say.
That's so amazing. As someone who worked in television primarily, and in front of the camera, behind the camera, in the whole scope of production, really now having written and published a novel, how did those creative pursuits compare to you? Because one is very collaborative, almost from the beginning. And novel writing is collaborative on the end. And before that, there's lots and lots of time where you're just alone working on this piece of work that people won't see for a very long time. Could you kind of contrast the creative processes between those?
I mean, it's a really good question, because it's I'm used to working in a team. That's what I love. And even if I'm presenting, I genuinely don't think it's my show. I'm genuinely a team person, everyone doing their job. But I'm really an introvert as well. And, once I set myself the task of writing this book, once I thought, oh, you know what, you've always wanted to write one, and I had the idea, I thought, why don't you do it? And I loved it. I spent about 2 years, did it completely in secret, because I needed it to be all or nothing. I needed to go, no, you're going to do this by yourself. And if I'd involved other people, I sort of it wouldn't have worked for me. So I did it in secret for 2 years. And then, as you say, and I really enjoyed it, but then I've loved the bit since I started showing it to agents and publishers, and suddenly you get publishers, and then you've got, an editor and your PR team. Suddenly I'm back in a team again, and I absolutely love it. So I adored the writing. But the fascinating thing about the book industry is some people, they do the writing and then they stop. And then, whereas I've loved the bit since, because I'm really proud of the book. So that's a given. So I know that it's something I want to sell. That my experience in television is it's a selling industry, right? And it's a selling industry where you can only sell something that people like, because you sell one series and then you want to get your second series and your third series. And I've adored the bit. I said to the publishers right at the beginning, I will sell this door to door for you if you want, because that's my career, So I loved the 2 years of crafting this book, being proud of it, all of that. And I've really loved the business of selling and selling in different countries and selling film rights and all of this kind of stuff, and going to different bookshops and working out how to use different social medias for different things. And I think it's something that some writers are less comfortable with, and I've been lucky in that it's something I'm very comfortable with.
Papyrus Author was designed and developed with the modern writer's needs, wishes, and preferences in mind. From big structures right down to tiny details, every single feature of our software has been carefully and meticulously crafted in collaboration with authors. Take charge of your writing with the author interface, which gives you access to different elements of your story, such as characters, backgrounds, and narrative structure. Move sections of your writing seamlessly in the navigator and evaluate the complexity of your text with our expert style and readability analysis. Never worry about losing progress with automated backups. With Papyrus Author, you can be your own writer, editor, and publisher. The world of writing is about to change. Papyrus Author, the word processor for authors, has arrived on the international stage. Unrivaled in its scope, it is the first software suite to unite every single step of creative writing. The vision behind Papyrus Author is to empower everyone with an idea to turn it into a great book for free. A word processing core that matured for over 10 years at its foundation, Papyrus Author goes beyond the text with its intuitive organizing layers for story, characters, notes, and research. The powerful style and readability analysis help raise manuscript quality. The inbuilt publication capabilities take the book directly to the reader with ebooks, docx, and print-ready PDF. Visit papyrusauthor.com to get started today. Richard, I'll tell you when I knew that this book was for me, and
Okay.
I had cracked the cover open, and like most of us do when we're purchasing a book or we've gotten a new book, you kind of study the cover a little bit, and you maybe read the flaps inside, and then you turn and you look for a little something to read to to know if you connect with the author's style or not. And just past the table of contents, before the book even starts, there's a little vignette. It just kind of stands alone on a page, and it's just a couple of short paragraphs, and I'm going to read them if you don't mind. Killing someone is easy. Hiding the body, now, that's usually the hard part. That's how you get caught. I was lucky enough to stumble upon the right place, though, the perfect place, really. I come back from time to time just to make sure everything is still safe and sound. It always is, and I suppose it always will be. Sometimes I'll have a cigarette, which I know I shouldn't, but it's my only vice.
Yeah.
I was immediately hooked after reading
Great.
that. Oh, because having a cigarette, that's the only vice. I mean, besides the dead body that we're talking about,
Yeah.
and I immediately was hooked. And I was like, I have to know who this character is. And
Right.
I have to imagine that there was, at least a huge smile on your face when you wrote that, if not just, being in stitches. When you got the idea for the story in its conception, when stories are just little kernels of something, did it begin with a vignette like this? Did you have a full look into the character, or what was the beginning of this for you?
I mean, it began with the setting, really, and it was a real setting, a real retirement community that I went to, and felt it was very, very. It felt like a setting for a book, in the heart of the English countryside, and in that setting, in this real retirement community, were these people who were in their 70s, and as soon as I had the two things, these incredible people with these life experiences, and this place where it'd be a perfect place for a murder, I had, and that's again in TV terms, I suddenly thought that's a good idea, and that's an idea that has mileage in it. And writing about four people in the 70s has mileage in it, and writing about this place has mileage in it. So I immediately thought, hold on, I think you should take this one quite seriously. And in terms of the characters, quite often they do come from like a line of dialogue, and you just sort of think, well, who on earth would say a line of dialogue like that? That's very peculiar. And suddenly the characters sort of come together. And in this one, I wanted four people. I wanted them to be very, very different. One is a spy, one's a psychiatrist, one's a labor activist, and one's a psychiatrist. And then suddenly they start talking to each other, these four characters, and then you throw the real world at them. And the line you're talking about there is very interesting about I have a cigarette. I know I shouldn't, but it's my only vice. Because lots of people very kindly have said, look, this book makes us laugh a lot, and that's great. And, I've always done comedy. But I'm really aware in mystery fiction that jokes can take you out of the book. And I have no interest in taking anybody outside the book at any point. So quite often a line will occur to me, as I'm writing, or, I'll put in the mouth of one of the characters. And you think, oh, no, hold on, that's not quite right. But then a line like that, which is I have a cigarette, I know I shouldn't, but it's my own advice, will occur to you. And you think, well, that's quite funny, but it's also completely true.
Right.
And that's the thing. If you write something that's funny, but also just is completely true to the story and completely true to the character, then it's the best of all worlds, really. So there's no one-liners in the book. There's no kind of, oh, this is an excuse to do a joke. So hopefully all of the comedy comes out of character and out of how these four people respond to the real world, when it knocks on their door. And so, yeah, it's a judgment call. But when you hit that sweet spot of a line that is funny, but also is character, and also makes you think, hold on a minute, what's going on here? And hopefully there's a few of those peppered through the book.
Well, comedy is something that really can enhance mysteries or some sort of story where the reader is on the edge of his or her seat constantly, and the adrenaline is up a little bit, and it's really a deft thing that the author can do to provide moments of levity, maybe not slapstick comedy, but moments of levity where you let that adrenaline recede a little bit, and it almost, if done well, can enhance the tension more, because you do let the reader off the hook a little bit. Is that a conscious thing that you think about, or does it just come naturally out of maybe your little bit of a smart alecky nature?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's entirely
because I have a similar nature. I that was not a dig at you.
No. Listen, I don't. I promise you, I don't take it as one. Quite the opposite. I think that no, it's not a conscious thing at all. I think that it also makes people more real as characters. I mean, there's no stock characters in this, and there's no like comedy characters where someone comes in and trips over a bucket. So the comedy comes from these people have a funny take on life, or face life in a certain way, and we all know in our own lives the people who make us laugh are the people who are just themselves. So I think that. But the one thing about it, if you can get away with making people laugh through your characters without ever deviating from the story is absolute the god throughout. Every scene is moving it along, and I take the story incredibly seriously. There's no light, it's the story is the story. The characters are the ones providing the humor. But the one thing I noticed is it's a very good way to lay some of your red herrings, some of your clues. If you think something's a throwaway joke, and you think, oh, okay, yeah, and you've put something in there that looking back, someone will go, oh, he told us right there what the solution was. Then it's an incredibly good thing for a mystery novelist, I think, because everyone's always looking as to where to hide their clues, right? I mean, that's the key thing I sort of understood the more and more I wrote. You think, oh, I get it. It's the plot is going to be where the red herrings I've hidden, the red herrings I'm pretending to hide, but also letting you see a bit of, and the real things I'm desperately trying to hide, and then the real things that I'm, there's all the different kind of ways that you can kind of hint at who did it or who didn't do it. And humor is a really, really good way of hiding some of them.
You talked a little earlier in our conversation, Richard, about the fun of selling the book and getting to do promotion and kind of that side of the business. You wrote an article for crimereads.com that I absolutely loved. And the title is All British People Are Potential Murderers. That's why we love our mysteries.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. Why do you think we on the other side of the pond have this kind of cliched view of British people, and how did you take those ideas and kind of run with it?
Well, I love that. Listen, the Americans love the Brits like the Brits love the Americans, and we each have our stereotypes of the other, and that sort of thing of all Brits are potential murderers and stuff like that goes back to the Agatha Christie thing, of using that sort of stereotypical British countryside and British attitude and the quaint sort of country pubs and the beautiful villages and the manor houses and the butlers and the cream teas and all those things. So using that, which is very seductive and draws everyone into a world that they want to spend some time in. But then also understanding that the British nature is we're enormously polite at all times, and we never actually say what we mean at any point. And so that's why we're all potential murderers, because we're all going to be polite to you, right? All of us. Now, the truth is 60% of us actually are polite. We actually do want you to have a good day. We actually do want to know, how you take your coffee. But 40% of people, they just want to kill you. But they're still going to ask you if you had a nice day. That's just the British personality. And Agatha Christie was brilliant on that because, you bring together these characters who are so nice to each other, and it was all genteel, and everyone was, everything was so pleasant and gentle and beautiful. But you knew that someone had murdered someone, and often everyone had murdered someone. Because of the simmering resentments that can boil up your English. If our stereotype of the Americans is you wear your hearts on your sleeve and you show your emotions immediately. And if you're furious with someone, you'll tell them. And that's harder to write a sort of crime fiction out of. Whereas if you can believably make everybody lovely and polite all the way through, but still one of them's a murderer, then, that's much harder for you to work out, right?
Right. There's a popular sort of milieu maybe in mystery and thriller writing nowadays, and that's the use of the what's the word I'm looking for? The uncharacteristic narrator or the unbelievable narrator.
Yeah.
And that got used very well in Gone Girl, and then there have been a number of copycats after that. And this book harkens back to an earlier time of mystery writing. And I mean that with all sincerity and with all love. That this book is not a gimmick that you're going to pull over on the reader. The characters are true, and they are, all the way to the end. Can you talk a little bit about the thinking of the style of what book this would be, and kind of the themes? Did you know from the beginning what this book would be, or did you kind of discover it as you went?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I think, funny enough, when I started writing this, and everything is written, you start writing it sort of 2.5 years before it comes out.
Right.
And when I was writing this, all of those unreliable narrator books were very, very big. And Joyce, who narrates a lot of this book through her diary, is what you call a reliable narrator. Or when she's not reliable, she tells you, I may not have remembered this. But yes, she's not pulling any sort of stylistic trick on you. And I think that, well, firstly, I had someone writing a diary, because my first worry when I started writing a book, and I know loads of people will have written or will be writing now, I sort of thought I had to get out of my own way a little bit. I sort of thought, well, what right have you got to describe what the sky looks like or what someone's wearing? I mean, and that authorial voice. So actually, the second I started going, no, let's let Joyce take the reins for a little bit. Let's let her do it, and but talk in a very matter-of-fact way, and to be able to say, look, I'm not going to be very good at describing what the sky looks like, by the way, but I'm going to give it my best. So that's why I've got sort of this diary narrator and writing it from the first person. But yeah, I think the book is, and I think it was always designed to be, a book that, quite apart from the fact that it's about some bloody murders and terrible secrets and all that stuff, it's a book that comes from kindness, and it's a book that comes from friendship, and it's a book that comes from warmth, and it's a book that comes from respect, and it's a book that comes from sort of valuing people who live life the right way. And all of these four characters, they're all strong, and they're certainly headstrong, but they're also kind, and they also look after each other. And that's just my personality, and it's the family I come from, and it's how I believe the world should be. And it sort of just inhabits the characters. And I think, funny enough, it comes out in 2020, and everyone goes, well, this is great. So strong characters who have strong opinions, but who will look after each other, and who are respectful of each other and respectful of other people. Feels like quite a nice theme for 2020, when we're told that we all hate each other and we're all at each other's throats. And I don't believe that to be the case. And it seems the reaction to this book in the UK anyway would suggest I might have a point.
Well, I'll tell you what, Richard, I absolutely love this book. I love the characters. I love the setting. What a breath of fresh air this book was for me. Talk briefly, if you would, about the setting, because this is not your typical mystery setting. But then when you get into the book, it absolutely makes perfect sense. Why did you choose to set a book here?
Well, again, because I went to a real place, a real retirement community, and so it's set somewhere very real. And the sense I got in this place was that there was a huge amount of life there. There was a huge amount of intrigue and gossip. Like there's about 300 or 400 people there, and in any group of 300 or 400 people, if it's college or whatever, there are cliques, there are secrets, there are there's popular kids, there's there's geeky kids, but everyone happens to be in their 70s. And most of the first book, funny enough, the second book moves out from it a little bit, but most of the book is set within the confines of that community, and there's enough in that community that can handle an entire plot. And there's enough different people from different worlds, and there's the people who develop the community and the building the community, and then the cops come into the community, and so it sort of felt like anything could happen there, and certainly enough could happen to tell the story that I chose to tell in the first book, but also that maybe people hadn't seen it before or hadn't heard it before. That it was a setting that felt at once familiar, but also fresh, and a setting that everyone who's read it in the UK keeps going, God, how can I live there? I would love to live in this place. When I'm 70, how do I find a place like this? And the good news is it's real, so you can actually live there.
That's fantastic. So what's next for these characters? Was this a one-off book? Is there a follow-up to it coming? When you publish a book like this, what comes next?
There's definitely a follow-up again, because this is another TV thing. If I make a series, then I want to make a second series and a third series. Because
exactly.
If I love something, I love it, and I don't just want to say, well, let's think of something new. So it's designed to be a series. I've just signed up for 4 books in the UK and in the US, which is very, very exciting. And signed a movie deal with Steven Spielberg as well, which is also very, very exciting. So my thing would be, I'd love to spend the next 5-10 years with these characters. Well, everyone who survives from the first book, everyone who survives the first book returns for the second. And I've been writing the second during lockdown, and they've kept me great company. So for me as a TV person, I've got these characters who I love writing, and so long as people love reading them, I'll just keep doing them. I'll do one a year. And again, the publishers are saying, it'd be great if we could do one a year, but we understand, that maybe if it's 2 years or a year and a half, but readers obviously love it if it's one a year. And I said, well, I'll do one a year then. I'm not going to, if that's what readers love. That's why. I mean, who am I to say, oh no, I couldn't possibly. I think I need 2 years. If readers want one a year, and I'm happy with the quality of the books, then I'll do one a year, because I want people to have what they want. And for me, it's a joy because I get to hang out with these characters. And for as long as it's a joy for readers as well, then everybody's happy, right?
Exactly. And I for one, If you want this little bit of feedback from the United States where I am, I love this book. I can't wait to see what comes up, and I hope there's a shelf behind me here that's just full of these books. So, so please keep it up. Please keep it up. Richard, I know that you have a busy day today doing lots of book promotion, and so I know you've got to go. But before you do, we're going to put links to the Thursday Murder Club in the show notes of this episode to make it easy for people to find. Where can people find you if they want to dig into all the great stuff that you do?
You can find me on Twitter, which is at Richard Osman. That's Richard Osman. And on Instagram, I'm Mr. Osman, MisterOsman. And yeah, listen, it's very British, my Twitter. I warn you now. A lot of British television programs, a lot of British candy, and stuff like, and a lot of British sports. I talk about soccer. I'm really sorry. But yeah, that's got lots of, all the kind of TV shows I'm on and stuff like that, and all the Thursday Murder Club news as well. There's a newsletter you can sign up to. There's a link on my Twitter bio as well. But listen, I mean, the second they let anyone from either of our countries back on a plane, I'll be over to. I love the States. I did US politics was my major at college. I love the country. I'm gutted I can't be over there. I want to be going around just signing books and meeting everybody. And the second I can, I'll be over there. Honestly, you won't be able to get rid of me, I promise.
We look forward to those days. Richard, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show today.
Thank you, Hank.
Authors, I have a fantastic new service to tell you about. It's called PubSite. PubSite is a service to help you build your very own website, your home on the web, where you can promote your work and give your fans a place to connect with you. PubSite is a website platform that allows every author, regardless of budget, to have a great-looking professional website developed by the book marketing professionals at FSB Associates. PubSite is the new, easy-to-use DIY website builder developed specifically for books and authors. Whether you're an author of one book or 20, or a small publisher, PubSite allows you to build, design, and most importantly, update your website pain-free. No need to be dependent on a designer or webmaster to make a small but costly change to your website. Save the money and do it yourself. PubSite is the best platform for authors because it's a book-centric platform. PubSite was built just for authors and small publishers. Every design, feature, and layout is book-centric. They have customized designs for you to use. It's easy to build. No coding or HTML is necessary to create a stunning, professional-looking website with all the features you want. Get a custom domain name, yourname.com. It's simple to update. You can add all of your books, add a blog and a book tour, sell from any retailer, manage your email list and social media, and even do e-commerce. Build your website with a 14-day free trial, then pay just $19.99 per month, which includes hosting. And we offer packages starting at $499 to set up the website for you. Pub-site.com, the place to help authors find their home on the web. Do you ever wonder if a person's critical thinking comes at the expense of their own happiness? Is it possible to be very happy and still practice excellent discernment? I used to wonder the same thing. Then I discovered the Trouble in Paradise podcast with Nigel Kent and Jasmine Starr, where they laugh as well as think about conspiracy theories and unexplained phenomena without ever getting bogged down in the age-old tug-of-war between logic and feeling. The Trouble in Paradise podcast is a joyful program for critical thinkers who have a sense of humor. Join Nigel and Jasmine as they probe the intriguing and wacky culture of odd occurrences, strange news, and ridiculous coincidences on this hilariously intelligent podcast. Trouble in Paradise on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Stitcher. Follow at Tipcast239 on Twitter. Trouble in Paradise with Nigel Ken and Jasmine Starr, a happy podcast for critical thinkers like you.